Grant Dania now.
It's Grant Dania.
The gold logie this year. Oh my God, it's Grant Dania.
And our mum, Shezzy Dania. She's really crazy.
It's all true.
It's All True, the podcast with Grant and Shezzy Dania.
Well, that's right. Grant's not singing it this week.
I've got a ban on singing it. I just find it too catchy. Look, I can't help it if I really like it.
Do you ever sing it, though, when you're not sitting here doing this podcast?
No, it's the only time I hear it, and it's the only time that's in my head. Because you remember, we hear this song, and then we do like usually an hour's chat with someone, and then it's
gone.
After that, I'm thinking about, how amazing that person was, or what incredible achievement, or how they endured what they endured. I'm not thinking about the piece of music that was an hour earlier.
We
just enjoy the chats. I'm here for the bants.
We have had some really good... I'm trying to make it a messy with my feet. We've had some really good guests on, haven't we?
Yeah.
We have. Can you even think back over 8 seasons worth of guests?
So many goodies.
I think one of the best ones was your old boss.
Doug Hogan. That
was pretty cool.
Yep. I was on the receiving end of his 9.5 quite a few times up my bum. It was the best kicks that I ever needed.
Yeah.
He sent me on a wonderful trajectory that have helped me to this day. Champion bloke.
Yeah, he's a
I needed a little bit of coaching and redirecting in moments of my life, and thank God I had Doug in my corner.
Yeah. I noticed that none of my first bosses came forward to talk.
You had your cameraman on.
Yeah.
What would your first bosses have said?
Well, my dad was my first boss and he fired me.
Well, that's why he's not on the podcast.
Yes, that's right.
That's all bloody bad news.
Definitely won't get him on.
Although I'd love to know what you did wrong.
I think
anyone sacking their child is must have been a shit employee.
I was put on the front desk and I was doing reception duties at the real estate, and I think I stuffed up the calls and I was too busy talking to friends.
Sold half the houses for half price?
No, nobody let me go anywhere near the selling.
No.
I think I was just a bit blasé. I was 14 and I was, I hadn't found my feet yet, my responsible feet.
You're into dudes and the Charlotte Hornets then at that point, that you weren't focusing on crunching numbers and bloody pushing pens around in an office and faxing people contracts.
No, that's right. Oh, the fax. Yeah. Do you remember the sound when a fax would come through?
It was very exciting. Hoping it was someone who'd sat on the photocopier or was sending through a cheeky photo of their bum. Always good.
Does that ever happen?
Oh, hilarious. What are you talking about? Is there anything I ever used the fax machine for? I never used it for actual faxing.
We had our fax.
You put your face up against the glass and you had to send like a squashed picture of your face through to someone else?
I never did that.
On the scanner and fax it through? No?
I never did that. I did my hand.
Photocopier?
We used to have our fax connected to our home phone. This is before mobile phone days.
Oh, that would have been fun.
It was crap because you'd hear the phone ring and you'd be like, yes, someone's ringing for me. And you'd like dive for it. I'd try and beat my sister to the call. And then you'd hear the yeah, and you'd go, damn it, it's a fax.
Yeah.
That's crap.
Or when when you've had multiple phones in the house, when you're on, you're having a deep and meaningful with your bestie, or you're sharing some juicy stuff, and then your mum picks up the other phone to call her friend Colleen, and you have to quickly shut up what you're saying and say, "Mum, I'm on the phone. I'm on here."
Yeah. Did you hear the click click?
Nah, she'd pretend. She'd do it with her mouth and go click, and then keep listening.
Oh,
she was a sneak, old Glennis.
What was she hoping to hear?
Oh, I don't know. Whatever bloody 14-year-olds were up to.
What were you talking about? I can't imagine it'd be
smoking
very
behind the bike sheds.
Oh, you're right.
Passion chicks. I did neither of those.
No. So I was going to say, you act like you're real tough.
Didn't smoke and didn't have a girlfriend until I was 18.
Oh, that still makes me laugh. We joked about that the other night at your house.
Yep.
They said Grant was a really good boy.
I was not a lady slayer at all.
No, not.
I dreamt and wished that girls would talk to me.
Aww.
They'd rather talk to the tall footy guys, Where are those tall footy guys now?
Well, that's what I was about to say. Where are these girls now? Yeah?
Probably with the tall footy guys. Who are hopefully fat and bald. Yep.
There is a certain mentality. Yeah, I don't want to get myself into trouble. But yes, I had friends who loved that whole...
Everybody did.
certain type of person, but it more
get
often than not would end up in them being heartbroken.
Well,
the girls.
because we also don't, we don't form great relationships when we're young because we don't know ourselves. We haven't evolved. So we do things on a surface level. And then, if that works out not to be, a great relationship, it's because you sort of went into it with the slightly wrong motivations. But it's every failure makes you a better person and you make better choices, hopefully, later on in life. But you've got to go through that.
Yeah, but some people
everyone dates for the wrong reason at some point.
Some people go for the same person over and over and
There is
over
that.
again.
There is also that.
Yep.
Yes, there are also some people who don't learn from their own mistakes.
Yeah.
This one will be better. I can
Yeah.
really fix this one. The fixers. You're a fixer.
The fixers.
Yep.
I don't know where this is going, but this feels like a bit of an intervention on me.
Nah, mate. Hey, intervention. You landed the bloody... You landed the great...
The great GD.
The great cod.
The great lady slayer.
Oh, the
The
lady.
smoker behind the sheds.
Smoker with his white runners and his jeans, with his T-shirt tucked in, playing the bass, slapping the bass
With
in
your-
his high school band.
With your flat top and your bloody dirty
Singing,
rat's tail.
This is a call to all my past resignations. I did Foo Fighters song when Foo Fighters first started as my year 11 music exam.
Oh, how did that go?
We got a C+. I think we killed that day.
A C plus.
Yeah, that was pretty high for us.
What do you get an A for? I can imagine it would be pretty good. That's a bit.
I don't think it was the bass work that
shady.
brought us down. No, I was the weakest in there, to be honest. We had Dwayne on lead guitar and vocals. He could really wail. Rodney on drums.
Right.
God, that guy could pound.
We need to get the band back together.
We had Les on rhythm for that one, who normally played bass, but for whatever reason, I think I was on bass for that one. Probably because I wasn't up to the level of playing rhythm, if I'm honest.
Why didn't you sing?
Too shy.
Wow.
Too shy. Yeah.
We need to get the old band back together.
Can you imagine?
Oh, that would be cool. That'd be a great podcast.
Fuck, that'd be wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See where they all are
Maybe
now.
my lady slaying days are yet to come.
Maybe.
Maybe if I just get those white runners out and those jeans, tuck in that T-shirt, pull that bass on, slap at the bass,
Yeah, who
and then
knows?
watch them just come running.
Or running the other direction.
Come on, mate.
We've got some
dare you.
really, really cool guests on today. Oh, my watch is going off already.
Unnecessarily need to be brought that up.
Sorry, it was just speaking back to me because of Siri. We have got Mandy and Kate from Two Peas in a Podcast. And if you haven't heard of them, I think you're going to really like this chat. They are the
They are
real deal.
sweethearts.
They are absolute legends.
And their podcast is enormous.
We are so glad that you guys have joined us today because when we came on your podcast, we had an absolute ball. We really enjoyed talking with you guys and we said that we would get you on. And so welcome
you.
to It's
And
All
normally we
True.
lie when we say that to people, but in this case it's actually true. That's how much we like you.
We lie too.
You guys have been doing your podcast for 4 years. Is that right?
Yes.
What
Yep.
was-
We started it on Mother's Day 2019.
And what was the crazy decision behind wanting to create the Two Peas podcast?
I think it was an obsession with podcasts because we loved them a lot. And I think it was wanting to tell really interesting parenting, mothering stories that hadn't been told.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes
And just
sense.
something with an Australian voice. I'd listened to a few in America about moms. And we want to hear about mums.
Yeah.
It's a good
Which,
idea.
We want to talk about the NDIS and we want to talk about, our kids going to kinder and primary school and all those sort of things. And we just knew that there was pockets of lonely women because we were them. So, having children with diagnosis, disabilities, all that sort of stuff, we were the women at the gates running away from the group chats because we couldn't join in. And so we just thought, let's give it a go. We didn't know whether it would last more than 3 episodes, to be honest.
Now,
But you just gave it a go.
for our listeners, sort of explain
Give us some backstory.
those situations.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I'm Mandy. I have nearly 18-year-old fraternal twin girls, and they were born 9 weeks premature, and they both have a diagnosis of hemiplegia, cerebral palsy, so it's down one side of their body, opposite sides, of course. And one of my daughters also has an intellectual disability. And I also then have a 12-year-old. So, yeah, that's sort of my little family.
So I am Kate of the Two Ps. So people get Mandy and I mixed up all the time, but I don't have blonde hair anymore, so I feel like we're slightly easier to tell apart. I have 5 children. My 4th and 5th are identical twin boys. That is how Mandy and I met, through the Australian Multiple Birth Association online forum before Facebook. That's how old we are. So we have been hanging out since our twins were about 1. So my twins are also neurodivergent twins. They have heaps and heaps and heaps of letters after their name that are probably boring to go into, but make them really fabulous, interesting people, and have made my life so much cooler, way more fun. And I think honesty, people say honesty is the best policy. That's until you live with children that are neurodivergent. And then you're like, holy smokes, they'll be honest. But yeah, that's my story. And so we started the podcast because we wanted to talk about families like ours.
Yeah, we just thought there was lots of people telling stories about their own children and who were telling stories about our families, because our stories, we think, are way more interesting.
Hells yeah. You mentioned at the start you wanted to start the podcast because you were tired of being left alone at the school gate and unable to engage in conversations. What do you mean by that?
I think for me, they were my first children. So it was the first time I was, in the school world. And, I was wrangling them. I was having meetings with the teachers all the time. And then we were pulling out to have surgeries. There was just all of that stuff that was happening in that first year of school. I had a brand new baby, and I just felt like I couldn't join into those conversations because women weren't talking about going to the Royal Children's Hospital. They weren't talking about, I don't know, all the little things that I was managing at 2 hours before I even got to school.
Which is so much. And so you basically created your own community. And you've got a huge following of mums from right around the world, if I'm right now. Yeah. So
we just Kate did some looking into podcasts. She said we needed 30 listeners for our first episode for them to tell people, and maybe it will grow. And so we begged as many people as we could to listen to the first episode. We got 100, and then I just bombed it into every Facebook group I was in, and unashamedly. And then it just started to go from there. And yeah, we had lots of expats love listening to us from all around the world too. So yeah.
Can you do some guerrilla marketing for our podcast? Because you sound pretty full on and aggressive.
I can get into a Facebook group like no other.
Do you know, I haven't used Facebook since about 2008 because Shezzy runs it all for me, and now I've forgotten how it works, and I'm too afraid to get back into it.
Lucky you.
But I feel like I'm missing out on connecting.
We started in 2007, right? So Gen X women who started in Facebook when it arrived, we know what we're doing.
Yeah, I feel it was because I was, to be honest, it was because I was on the road constantly for Sunrise at a time, and that was prior to having smartphones. So I wasn't ever near a computer. I was never at home because, I had what did I have? 750 flights in 3.5 years. So I was just living in hotels, nowhere near a device to be able to connect to Facebook. So I kind of missed that whole technological era because I was a nomad.
Well, I think
how many freaking flyer points did you have though?
I had.
It's been amazing.
Well, I'm gold for life. I've only just come back from platinum, but I'm gold for life.
Yeah, and you were upset when you got bumped back, weren't you? Because you were like, the amount of hours I've put in for this.
What a first world dickhead.
Oh, no. I am going back to gold in July, and I am so sad.
Well, you're dropping back too.
Yeah. I feel like they should have, after COVID, they should have gone, you know what, there's a 5-year grace period for anyone who...
Amnesty.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I'm bloody Ruby or something ridiculous at the bottom of the pile. I don't even know if that is one.
Well, I had to, because it was also the very early days of Ansett. So I had, I probably had a million points racked up with them. So when they collapsed, I lost 1 million points and started back to zero. So it was
you can't cash them in.
It's all for nothing.
But you're not missing out on Facebook. But
no,
I mean,
right. I was in so many different groups, I suppose, of kids with disabilities. So I just thought, well, I would just say no pressure, but here's just this if you want to have a little listen. And then, just put it in there.
How not, sorry, Don.
No, we keep tripping over each other.
That's because we're a well-coordinated broadcasting team.
We need to put our hand up. I want to speak next. I want to speak next. Some of the stories that you've had on 2Ps, I don't know how you don't end up a blubbering mess. Like you guys, you are great at storytelling. You are great at pulling information out of people, who are not used to telling their stories. Have you had anyone on, that really touched you and left you kind of a bit shaken or moved?
Yeah, and I think, I'm not going to name them in case they're listening and people go, what, she wasn't moved at mine, she was only moved at theirs. But sometimes, and I'm sure that you have felt this over your career too, you're actually physically exhausted after interviewing people. And I think Mandy and I are so conscious of holding people up and only making them look good at the end. And so I'm also thinking while I'm talking to them, can we put that on? Like, is that, because Mandy and I are not journalists and have no skills, we just chat like we're having a conversation with someone around the table. So therefore, sometimes it gets a little bit loose and we sort of have to really think about, and because people who are telling their stories aren't aware of all the people who are out there trying to pick apart people's stories. So with that I reckon that's tiring a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm sorry that you've come on our podcast because we do not edit.
Yeah. Can you prop us up and make good?
Yeah.
Make us look good.
I think we need to have a lesson with these guys.
I
This
know.
is like
As a TV,
We got way better. Like in the beginning, our episodes were quite long, and we've got better at being a little bit more succinct, and asking questions.
Yeah.
Like we've just got a bit better at that. Yeah.
I think as for someone who hosts things for a living, I know exactly what you mean in terms of wanting people to shine. Like whenever say you have a game show, right, like Family Feud, when people come on, you've got 4 people on each team. So you've got 8 nervous people up there who are afraid they're going to embarrass themselves, say something stupid. They got to try and remember how the game works and be creative. So what, I saw it as my job was to make them feel as comfortable as possible, that they felt kind of held, so they can just kind of just shoot from the hip and enjoy themselves, and I'll take care of everything else for you, so you don't have to worry about that. Because when they shine, everything shines, and but that does take an energy. So I don't know how many podcasts you are in now, but like that's a lot of effort. 300.
oh my God, hit the clap.
Bloody hell, get the clap out.
We missed it though. I texted Kate and said, I think we missed our 300.
Yeah, we didn't take any notice.
You didn't like pop some bubbly or anything?
We did in the early days, don't you worry. Every time the download went up, we hit, 50,000 or 1 million. Like every one of those we celebrated.
That's so good, and it's such a gorgeous story. I just want to grab you both and just hug you and just put a big sloppy kiss on your cheeks. Because I had
the reason why people sorry to interrupt. Some of the reason why people are happy to talk to us is because we shared our stories in the beginning, so they trust us that we are who we say we are. Yeah. We're not just women that are saying, "Oh, we've got kids with disabilities." No, we really do. Hear our story. Listen to the early years. So people, they trust us.
And I had like with Sunday with her hip dysplasia, which we spoke about on your podcast, I had a tiny little snippet view at what and how hard your lives must be. And hats off to you to be able to manage your kids, to be able to manage, careers, households, and not be nervous wrecks. It's obviously taken an enormous amount of strength.
How do you keep your shit together?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't.
Right.
Nah, I think that is the gift, actually, of realizing that we're mediocre and we're really happy to be mediocre and not putting any pressure on ourselves anymore. Like before I had the twins, I probably thought I was a pretty good mum. Like I thought, yeah, I've got stuff together. Everything's labeled. I don't forget sports uniform, whatever. And then they just broke me and shattered every expectation I had of myself and motherhood. And then I was like, oh, good, I don't have to do it anymore. I'm just day at a time, baby.
What does broke me look like?
Yeah, that's such a great description.
Yeah, so I think people think that's a bad thing, but for me, it's been really freeing. And I really, like Mandy and I will talk about before Kate and after Kate and before Mandy. I don't even think I would recognize myself from probably 20 years ago. I don't think 20 years ago Kate would even like me. Like I was much more, I don't know, earnest. I don't know. I was a different person. I also left very conservative religion when I had the boys. Like, so that literally broke everything open in my life and I became a completely different person. I think what it did was it shattered what I thought I could control. And if you just have typical twins, you're going to realize you can't control anything in parenthood. They cry, they poop, they're two babies screaming. You're done. You're absolutely done. So that was actually a relief because I was like, oh, I can't do it. Okay, good.
So you didn't have to uphold that, that image that you're a good mum anymore or that you were perfect and you were, because there is a really big need for a lot of mums to uphold that image to be validated, isn't there?
Yeah, and I mean that's because it was my first experience. I didn't have that. I just was slam bam. I remember Darren, my husband, saying, having twins was like slam bam, welcome to parenting. There was no, I used to laugh at my friends who'd say, I sleep in on Saturdays, my husband sleeps in on Sundays. And you're like, oh, I just, wow.
None of us are getting any sleep.
No. And my husband has a severe hearing loss. So I would bring a baby in and put it in front of his head and go, take it. And he'd be like, like two babies all night.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, that alone, on top of having them prematurely, like that was really hard. Leaving your baby in hospital.
But did you say 9 weeks premature?
Yes. Yep.
9 weeks.
Yeah, which is kind of average in the twin world. I had lots of people on with the micro prems, the 23 and 24 weekers. So now I'm grateful they were only 9 weeks prem, but at the time I was extremely sad.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking about, 9 weeks before I had all of my girls where I was at. That's at the point where you're like, oh my God, we need to set up the cot. Like you're not ready.
Nothing set up, no room. We just moved house a week before.
Oh, God.
Like we had nothing, no curtains on the windows. We had car seats, but I didn't have anything else. Missed the baby shower, all those sort of things that you think you might have.
Yeah.
That shapes you. It changes you.
And did you know that they had disabilities so that was a surprise.
Sort of unfolding around. Well, I always suspected, but around about 8 months corrected. So they were 10 months old. That's when that's when I went to the nurse and said, something's going on. I've got a twin here who's moving and this one is not. And so that's when it all started. And then we had another diagnosis at 2.5. For my other twins. So yeah. And then the intellectual disability diagnosis was around grade 2 and 3, somewhere around there.
When you first, because I mean it's your first babies, Mandy, and being told, that there was a disability, can you take us back? How did you, I'm just putting myself in your shoes and
yeah. Well, I suspected because I'd worked with babies my whole career. So I already suspected, but nothing sort of gives you that. Let's have an MRI or let's have an ultrasound on the brain, and then let's go to the pediatrician and then him say, yes, there is some damage to the white matter in her brain. And that was, I was in shock. Yeah.
Did you have a clear path to diagnosis? Was everybody on board straight away, or did you have to do some pushing with the medical professionals? No,
pretty much, because I could see she wasn't really using the right side of her body. So it just, everything took time, time to get into early intervention, a long time to get the MRI, quite a short time to have the ultrasound. Had to have the ultrasound before her fontanelle closed. So we were able to get that done then. Look, I was shocked and I was sad and I was worried. But I remember I was so shocked I couldn't really get out of bed. But then I heard them both cry and I thought, you got to get up. You got to get up to these babies. Come on. And so I just have kept going ever since.
You're incredible. Yeah. Like I remember when I'd had Sailor and sitting on the lounge and I had really bad mastitis and you haven't slept and I just felt like absolute crap. And I remember thinking, I cannot do this for another 18 years. I actually... who has made me responsible for this child? Because I'm not even responsible for myself.
We really won't.
No, it's a real moment.
It is a real moment. But I think something that Mandy and I talk about, and my journey is completely different to Mandy's. I had a really, really stressful pregnancy. We were told the babies would die. So we were always looking out. They were only 7 weeks prem, but we were always looking out for delays and stuff. So it was completely different. But something that Mandy and I really want to get across to people is, yes, it's a shock when you get a diagnosis. The same as when a relationship ends, or you suddenly have to move house, or your job finishes. Like, you're like, oh God, I don't know how to metabolize this. But eventually you do metabolize it, but it's not all shit, right? So we say to people, the day of diagnosis, which can be so hard, this other really amazing thing happens. And it's like when you go out for dinner and you're like, I couldn't eat another thing. And then someone's like, tiramisu. And you're like, oh, maybe I could.
Were you there last night?
And so we say that, like, you think you love your child the most you can love them. And then the doctor tells you something, or the psychiatrist or whatever, and you're like, oh, I got extra love in my heart. There's like the dessert stomach, and you love them more and you're more protective and more passionate, and you get given this gift of becoming an advocate that you never thought you could be. And so it's tricky, but it's not bad.
Where do you think that extra superpower comes from?
Well, I don't think it is a superpower. I think that it's just like love. I mean, that sounds really sappy and it's not really my brand, but I think it's love.
Yeah. And I love that's I think why people genuinely love you too, because you have given them the words and you've articulated, because there's a bit of grieving, sometimes that happens in these processes, and you have said that's okay. You've said life, goes on, and you've given lots and lots and lots of mums and parents really pragmatic advice. And you live it. You live by it as well. And, yeah, I feel like hitting the applause button again for both of you. Because
you know what I was thinking, that I remember when one time my daughter was a baby and she was really constipated, and you think, I'd grab that poo out with my teeth if I did. Like, yeah. I will do anything for you.
Yes.
That you would never do that. You wipe their snot with your finger.
Yep.
All the stuff you do because you just love them so much.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I don't want to share too much here, but I broke my back in 2008, and it was a long 4 months of recovery. Those pain meds are very
constipating.
They're constipating. They block you right up. And let's just say, Shezzy's got that touch. She's got that. There is no limit. There is no limitations on this relationship.
Not with my teeth.
She could have put a bloody glove on. Or had smaller fingers.
Wow.
See?
But
I don't think you've ever told that story.
No. And I feel like I'm in a safe space here. And there were things that on those pain meds, unfortunately, things that I did and said to poor old Shez that I'm still very humiliated and embarrassed and ashamed about. But what I did realise is if a partner can roll through those periods, they are in for the long haul. So I can only imagine the depth of love that you have with yours.
I knew that analogy would be good one day, and there it was.
I know.
Yeah. Sometimes I wish she had more boundaries, to be honest.
It's so true though, when you love them and you do anything for them, and kids, I don't know, it's hard.
It's
hard being a parent.
We were bloody selfish, self-centered, egotistical.
We were just young when we first had it.
We were just, we only had eyes on our own prize, and that is an unhealthy way to live forever. And I'm glad our kids came along and shook us out of that, because your vision comes up, you look around, the colours are brighter, the sounds are, you're more thankful that the sun comes up each day and that your body works, or whatever your situation is. You know what? Those kids give you that, and I'm glad. Even in our little situation, that's what we were given, because our life was pretty unhealthy and self-centered.
We just lived on the road, but
I like what our kids have given us.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I think when we started the podcast, our kids were older, so we weren't in like the the thick of it with early intervention and stuff like that. So we could also then be able to give people with new diagnosis, little bits of wisdom that we've grown along the way. And then we have people that we interview that are on the journey much longer than us, and then we learn from them. So that's what I love about the podcast, all the women's stories.
Yeah, it's so great. And you had a bit of a celebration with your twins.
Yes, we finished at the Royal Children's Hospital 2 weeks ago.
Bloody hell. Here it comes. Here it is.
So we were with the orthopedic surgeons. So I thought of you, Shazzy. So I sent you an email and said, today we graduated, and I think one day that moment for you with your precious girl, you'll feel like me, like I cried. The girls looked at me like,
what? Yeah.
I'm crying. It's so embarrassing. And the doctors were like, well done to all of you and well done, Mandy. And I was just like, what? It was massive. And I'm saying to the girls, do you want to go and get Macca's one last time? No, we want to go. I was like, okay, right. So we're not having any moments.
Yeah. Because did you look at them and like go back through all the years and like how many times have you visited there and the operations?
And 6 years old. Yep, they've had lots of orthopedic surgeries. Before that, we were at Monash. That's where they were born. We were at the old Royal Children's when it was really old.
Yeah.
And then we moved to the new one, which was amazing. Like there's all those, and I explained it like there's the ghost of Mandy everywhere I turn.
Yeah.
There's the ghost of Mandy when on the night of, or the day of surgery where we'd hide for 5 hours and just think, how can our baby's be in there for 5 hours? Or that's why I explain it as the ghost of Mandy everywhere. And for them.
God, that makes me really teary. When we had to put Sunday in to have her first hip operation and she just turned 1 and the nurses were like, she's going to be fine. I was like, yeah, she's going to be fine. She's going to be fine. And then just as they're like taking her in, she's like, Mummy.
Oh, yeah. It's just horrendous, and especially big bone surgery. Well, that's all I know, so I can't say especially, but I suppose big bone surgery, I just wasn't prepared for that. And both the girls were operated on the same day when they were 6. So we had like Darren would go in with one and I went in with the other one, and then we would just wait till they were both out of recovery and just try to be fine. And
what was that bone surgery? What did they have to have done?
It's called an osteotomy. So it was basically her leg was turning in her hip quite dramatically. So they turned her, I'm going to say it all wrong. Surgeons.
That's okay. No.
But,
we don't have any surgeons listening.
I'm not smart enough to know any different.
Sort of cut her thigh bone in half, turned that around into her hip so that it sat in there, and then put a steel rod in there to make her leg straight. Then there was lots of, we've had hamstring releases and tendon releases. We've had a bone graft in her foot. She had her toes all uncurled, lots of things. Yeah.
And are there wonderful advancements sort of in sort of recent years in this area? Like, is it an exciting time for the science of sort of helping kids in these situations?
Yes, because even the nurse, when we were saying goodbye, said, remember when she came in and her leg was so turned in, and now look at her leg. And I was like, I know, you're right. And even now, I mean, that was a long time ago, so who knows? But they also had a lot of Botox. So Botox was really big in the 2000s. It was sort of new. So they had a lot of that. I was said to someone the other day, they were basically drowning in it. The physio said to me, okay, you want me to write drowning in Botox? I was like, maybe not.
How does that read? Read it back to me.
And what is that? Is that to relax the muscles that are over tension?
Spasticity. So that's where that word spastic comes from. And so then the Botox will come in and relax it, and then you can do work on the muscles. Otherwise, you can't work on them.
Is spasticity
the
tightening of a muscle?
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
Yes.
Right.
And that can change. Now they have dystonia, which means that, stuff does whatever it wants to do. So there's lots of different types of cerebral palsy, and there's this sort of changing as they've got older.
And it's only it's only a physical impairment, isn't it?
Physical for one, but my other daughter has an intellectual disability as well.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Oh my God. I can't even I know that you can say it real matter of fact, they had this operation, and I'm just thinking for each of those, like there's a recovery time. And then you've got, like Sunday was fighting us with having Nurofen, now you've got to have it. You've got to have your antibiotics. I don't want it. It's really taxing, Yeah, you've done really, really well. And I know
Well, that moment in the hospital, I thought, okay, like they're telling me I did a good job. Okay, I tried.
Yeah, you did.
you did a fantastic job.
Did we see someone on the news the other day who had cerebral palsy who just finished a marathon or a half marathon? Yeah, I did.
They're amazing people.
Yeah.
Mm.
Unbelievable.
God, Mandy and I are going to be
Sorry,
Kleenex. Oh, my God. Sorry, I'm going to stop asking. All right, let's move on to Kate. Kate, what can we make you cry with?
Loads of things.
What song makes you emotional? I'll play it in the background as you're talking.
Oh, God.
Well, parenthood, I know that everybody knows this and it sounds really silly to say it, but it strips you back to your core. And so those things that happened, like if I talk about my pregnancy, I still cry. It's 18 years ago, right? And I know the boys are fine. I can look at them. I know they're okay. But all that trauma, you just carry around in it. And I remember, this is a lot of information, but before I'd go, I had 3 or 4 scans a week to see if they were still alive. And before I'd go, I'd always get diarrhea. And I said to this nurse, oh, I always get diarrhea. She goes, yeah, because you can't lie to your body. And I was like, oh, shit, yeah. Like I can lie to everybody else and be like, hi, how you going? And then to my own body, I'm not all good. My body's like, no, you're not. We're going to put you on the toilet for an hour.
Because I can't imagine. Well, I can't imagine going into the what are they, stenographer? Yeah, and having to sit on the toilet for an hour. That would have been hard yakka anyway. Well, otherwise, you would have pooped yourself on the table when they start pressing. But also that's like a chronic fear as well. Like, what are they going to find today? My heart breaks. That's also hard, Jacko.
Really, it was the hardest thing I've ever done, but yet you don't have a choice. It's not like I'm training for a marathon or I'm going for a new job and I think, and this is terrible, but people who are doing those things, I think, yeah, it's hard, but you could choose not to, and you want to do this and you like some of the endorphins or the glory or whatever that comes with it. I respect you for doing it because I will never do it. But when something's happening that's out of your control, like to one of your children or, someone you love is terminally ill or has a chronic illness, that sort of hardness is just, it's next level and you can't be ready for it. And like when I used to go in to have the scans, I had this amazing doctor that I saw every time, and he would take my hand and we made an agreement that he wouldn't talk and he would just find the heartbeats and he'd say, there's 2 heartbeats. And then he'd go, all right, now we're going to find out, is there a kidney today? What else is going on, And so I loved him so much. I named one of my twins his middle name. And then him and I went on a speaking tour to raise money for Monash Medical Centre to get them a better ultrasound machine. Because I was like, this man who, I don't know him really. He was with me 3 times a week for months on our own in this little room. And he was telling me if my babies were alive or not. And the day that they were born, the next day, he came and visited me in hospital. And he said, oh, I am so much less stressed. And it was the first time that I was like, oh, this wasn't just happening to me. Of course, he would have had to tell me if my babies weren't alive. But I just was so selfish at that point. I wasn't thinking about how it would have impacted him.
Well, you're probably thinking it was just a job for him, as well. But
what was the agreement on he not speaking?
Because I didn't want him to, how was your week? How's everything going? Because my week was crap, right? I thought my babies, I was told they were probably going to die. Like when they were about 11 or 12 weeks, we found out they had this thing called twin-to-twin transfusion, which the egg splits and then the babies both get something out of the placenta, but one of our babies zoomed it back into his brother. So, he was a sharer before he even knew what he was doing. And so, there's a donor twin and a recipient twin. And the donor twin is really little because they don't get enough nutrition. And they're called a cling wrap baby because the amniotic sac sucks in around them because they don't have enough nutrition to make urine, which is amniotic fluid. And so they just have little pockets of it. So I really thought they were going to die. So I was just like, he said to me, what is your greatest fear? And I said, that my babies are going to die because I'd been told to terminate them, which makes perfect sense. I get that. I'm pro-life, right? Pro-choice, sorry, not pro-life, pro-fucking choice. You do what you want with your body and I'll do what I want with mine.
Yeah.
But I said, I'm just so scared my babies are going to die. And he said, well, what's going to happen if we terminate them? And I said, oh, they're going to die. And he goes, I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm really scared about this. But if you're willing to roll the dice, I'll roll it with you.
Wow.
Yeah. So we rolled that dice and yeah, they're here.
Jeez,
Oh my God.
sounds like the right person you needed at the right time.
Yeah.
It really was.
And
Because the guy that did the scan the day before, when my obstetrician said, let's go to someone else, he sat me down and he said, you look like an extremely sensible person. So I'm just going to tell you, your babies are going to die and you need to terminate them within the next week.
Oh, Jesus.
Just like that. Just like that.
Oh.
How did you react? Did you like give him a foot in
No.
the groin?
Nah, I just said, I was absolutely speechless. And then I remember going out and paying, and that's when it hit me and I thought, I can't believe I am paying him
Yeah.
after he treated me like that.
God, of course.
Yeah. You know, but he was wrong. But a lot of he wasn't really wrong. They're anomalies. They shouldn't have made it, right?
Yeah.
So I know that we're really, really lucky to have them. So lucky. But there's ways of presenting things. There's ways of
Yeah,
giving
absolutely.
advice.
And also when you're in that state, you're vulnerable, no doubt.
Yeah.
And so when you've got somebody who has a medical degree, who's offering advice, and I mean, we have seen this a lot, they can be sometimes a little bit carefree with the way that they describe things, or they can be a little bit too matter of fact and they don't take into account a number of different things. They just go on
Some
the
of them
statistics.
have a sort of more right brain than left brain, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where they're a bit more,
that's
they're not great communicators, but they're fantastic scientists.
Yeah. And we need that.
And that's been really wonderful in the podcast because they listen, or lots of professionals listen, allied health, teachers, nurses, doctors, NICU nurses, all that sort of stuff. And they're listening, but nothing is personal. So they're not saying, we're not saying, well, Dr. so-and-so was so rude. We're just anonymously saying, well, this doctor said that. And then they've been listening. We made an episode for, was it Deakin Uni for their NICU doctors?
No, it was for Monash.
Okay. Yeah. And
For
so
all their
talking
NICU
about
doctors.
for all their NICU doctors to listen to what it was like. So that was amazing that we got to do that.
Yeah.
And we have amazing doctors who email in, like the head of can't even say it. The head of
Oh, I hate that word.
anesthesiology.
Yeah.
I can never say
At the
that.
Royal, no, the guys that knock you out. Well, the head of, at the Royal Children's.
Oh, you mean boxers?
Like, yeah. Like he listens every week, and he said he's changed his whole practice.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, the feedback that we get from doctors is unbelievable. And so I suppose for me, who, very proudly holds a diploma, the thought that someone could have got that far through life and not really realize what an impact their words have is such a shock. But on the other hand, they've studied for 12 years and then worked horrendous hours, and they're just out to get the best outcome for us and for our kids and everybody else. So they don't think about their words. And now they do, which is, it's beyond anything we could have ever imagined.
I just had a physio last week say, so I see a few scars on that leg. And I was like, yeah. Okay, and let me guess, Prem? And I was like, yep.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. Like,
Yeah, it's not bingo.
Yeah.
do you know what I could do to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, yep, okay, well, here we go. Let's just get into it, but that's her job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well-
sometimes, sometimes we have found that, that slightly it might not be careless, it might just be a bit direct, can impact you for a really, really
Yes, it can.
long time when you're in that vulnerable state. And good on
We
you,
have a
Kate.
great saying on our podcast, and someone sent it in to us. We didn't come up with it. So we were talking, someone was listening and they said, it's like we can listen in to an inner sanctum conversation that we could never hear. But some of us aren't in that inner sanctum. So what do you say to the people who are like us, who just talk shit all the time? Are we rectums? Are we out of rectums? Is there stuff just coming out of our rectum? And so we just didn't think anything of it, but it took off. And so people will come up to us, like you'll be at Coles and they'll be like, "Hi, are you Kate?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they'll be like, "Hi, my name's Phoebe. I'm a rectum, but I really..." And so we have whole threads in our podcast hangout of rectum comments, and it just gives some people a place to go, "Yeah, that happened to me. It was a really rectum thing. It wasn't mean.
Yeah.
It was unknowing." And just a rectum comment.
It just helps. Just gave a name to that feeling when you're like, oh, for goodness sake. Yeah, it's the best.
And we're all someone's rectum. That's what we say.
And we've said that all the time too. We are all someone. We're all going to, I say stupid things all the time, of course.
I'm
I'm going to have forgiveness for that.
going to call my kids little rectums.
We already do.
Yeah.
Rectum 1, 2, and 3.
Grant was just notioning to me that my nose is dripping.
No,
Is
you
it
had a
still
massive
dripping?
booger on your nose. A huge booger.
That's because they made me cry.
It was a crying booger.
It was a crying booger. Well, I've wiped it on you now. So.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh.
Yeah, the right words at the right time or the wrong words at the wrong time can have a huge impact on, I reckon, also what course you take and how you feel about what direction you're going. How do you guys feel? I get a bit airy-fairy here. The power of positivity and the positive thought versus just fate. Is one more dominant than the other? Is there only one or the other? How do you feel about belief and
It's tricky for us because we both sort of left our church communities when we had our twins. So I grew up, as a Christian right until I was 29, and then sort of decided to leave the church once everything sort of was happening with the girls. So it's sort of a tricky one.
Yeah.
Did you not feel supported? Is that part of the reason why you...
Very supported. I couldn't have asked for more help.
Right.
You've never met a person that's had more help than me.
Yeah.
I have had
Were the two
meals.
related, like leaving the church and having the kids, or are they completely separate?
Yeah.
No, they were very related.
Yeah. So for me, I'd go there and I just couldn't sing the songs anymore. And that was really a big part of my love of going to church, was standing there in that communal singing. I just didn't really understand. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't sing the words. Nothing made sense.
And for me, like I had all my scans with that beautiful doctor that I was talking about, and a couple of times he couldn't make it. So he said, "You need to go to Monash," which is a big hospital in Melbourne. Go to Monash Medical Centre to the fetal monitoring. So fetal monitoring is not where you go to have your normal scan. It's where all the high-risk pregnancies are. And so you'd sit in a room with maybe 10 women. Nobody would talk. No one would be like, "What are you here for?" Because you don't want to ask the question, There are outcomes that result in not a live birth. So you'd sit there and I'd go in and have the scan, and the machine was old. It wasn't as good as what I was paying for down the road at the private place. And I came out and I had the scan, went home. I was in the shower. I'm a big advocate of a shower cry. I was having a shower cry, and I had this literal epiphany where I was praying. I was like, "Please, God, let my babies live." And then I just remembered sitting in that room and looking at all of those women, and I thought, is God not going to save those women's babies because they didn't ask him?
Wow.
Does God only do what you ask for? Because I know in the Bible it says he loves you more than your parents love you. He's your heavenly Father. I love my kids heaps. They don't have to ask me, "Can I have lunch?" Even though they bloody do 27,000 times. They don't have to ask, "Can you pick me up when we fall over?" Or, you can't help yourself. And I just in that minute went, I can't believe in a God that's like that. And it literally shattered, and I never went back to church, and I gave up. And I was a Seventh-day Adventist. Like, it was a proper fundamentalist. All my friends were in that. I went to that school. Everything we did was within that. I had to walk away. It was like moving countries.
Wow.
And I was, I think I was about 28 weeks pregnant or something, and I've never gone back.
They're big thoughts.
Yeah. So when you're back to your positivity, I now love that it's fate, because I used to think God controlled it, and that if I did something or didn't do something, he was sort of this weird, when does he choose to help you and doesn't? And now I'm like, really shit things happen to really good people.
Yeah.
And really good things happen to really bad people, but it's all just where it is. I do like positive thoughts. I like to think, come on, Kate, you can do this. I think future Kate is the most incredible human because she's never let me down. Right now, Kate, bit dodgy, but future Kate never lets me down. Right? So I think that I'm glad that it's fate.
We also had a little friend die of cancer when she was 3. a friend of ours' child, and that was enormous to support her, and that had a fundamental change in my life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't look at a child with terminal cancer and think, oh, God's just choosing to not heal that one. You
It
just
was extremely tough.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit hard to reckon with, that, isn't it?
I lost,
Yeah, it has to shatter you somewhere.
Yeah.
But we love people. My mum, the
Yep,
church
same
is
with
her
my
life.
parents. Yes.
I have full respect for it. I really appreciate that people love it. It just doesn't work for me.
It's hard to find the answers and the reasoning. Yeah, one of my friends lost her child. Yeah, and I was there. It was extremely difficult. And I must admit that did make me question the whole, because I was raised a Catholic, and I remember thinking at the time, what God, why would you do this? And I tried to reason with it, thinking, maybe, she's needed in heaven for whatever reason.
Yeah, she's becoming an angel or...
Yeah. But it's hard when you see the heartbreak and the devastation, and no parent, should ever have to go through that.
And they don't recover.
No.
You can't recover.
But you guys were coming from the most traditional and staunch version of religion,
Yes.
and that God is a deity, and the rules that you follow and are built around that. Yeah, that would have been. I can't imagine how difficult that would have been. Yeah.
So do you
See
find
how interesting we are? That's why we had to start the podcast.
It's become a theology and religion.
But it's true. Do you guys now, what's your philosophy on life?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I think now it's really weird, because when I went to church, I thought I got this incredible peace. They talk about the peace that comes from church. And I found that incredible peace when I left, because I didn't have that pressure on me anymore. But I know my religion was really strict. But 100%, and I've got this framed at my front door, my philosophy is don't be a dick. Just don't be a dick. Just be kind, right? We all get cut off in traffic. I get grumpy too. We're all human. People get grumpy at me. But if I can sometimes just draw strength and go, don't be a dick about this, because you don't know what happened to them today. And look, some people are not nice. So that's just what you got to roll with. But I reckon most people are good.
I kind of agree with that. And you're right. You don't know. And I was talking to a group of people the other day, and they own, they all own, what was it? The suspension business, right? Tire and suspension. I was chatting to them all, and I'm like, I know it's hard, and you're running your business, and you're doing way too many hours, and then people come through the door, and they might come through at the wrong time. You're in the middle of something else. They've got the shits. They're being an annoying customer. They don't know what they want, and but the most important thing to remember is you don't know what that person's going through. You don't know what shit is collapsing in their life. You don't know where they're at spiritually. You don't know whether they're an evolved human, or they've just, they've faced a ton of trauma. Never underestimate someone else's struggle, and that can help you often deal when people are being dicks, as you just don't know where they're at.
I've been profoundly changed too with my daughter's intellectual disability diagnosis. And so I'm involved now with our Special Olympics Club, and she's at a specialist school. And so I just feel like I've been transformed into thinking about our most precious people in the world, and how we should be doing our utmost to look after them, and how vulnerable they are and how brilliant they are. And actually spending time with our Special Olympics athletes is the most fun I ever have. They're fantastic. They're kind. They're funny. All of that. So I've been transformed. And so my life philosophy is that we must look after our most vulnerable and precious people, because my daughter is that. And so I try to see our most precious people everywhere I can, and what can I do to make little bits of change for them.
Oh my God.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, Mandy's much nicer than me.
Don't be a dick, and what Mandy said.
Oh my God.
I can be a harsh person sometimes, but it actually doesn't get me anywhere. I've tried to soften, because there was years where I was hardened, and I was angry, and I was bitter, and I was, not a good friend, and all of that stuff. And I don't want to be that, actually. Yeah.
Because it doesn't make you feel good. And I often think about, talking about people who are dicks, and, you don't know what they're coming from. I read once, hurt people, and I just, that runs through my head all the time.
Did that. me too, because I definitely hurt people when I was when I was hurt, and I don't want to be that anymore. I'm old enough now, so I just want to actually do some good in this world. I think we have. And I'm super proud of our podcast and all the people that have come on, shared their stories. We're very lucky.
The fact that it's changing the way that care is being given is unbelievable. The fact that you're becoming a conduit between the professionals who study it and deliver it and from the parents who have to endure it and process it and raise those beautiful children is unbelievable, because that pipeline needs to be wide open. So it's constantly evolving for the better. So the experience is better for the next families and the next parents.
Right. And the truth is that when you're dealing with a child with a disability, you are dealing with the family. And until they are adults or can, take over their own care, we're a big part of it. And there was years where I was just horrible for the people to deal with. They would ring me, I wouldn't answer, I wouldn't return their calls. I just had burnout from all the therapists. I'm trying to do better with that now.
Yeah.
But once I said to the lady on the phone, just write in the notes, the mother is being uncooperative and she doesn't want to, she's not answering the phone calls. I said, just write it, because I don't care, and then you won't get into trouble.
Oh, see, but that's still...
Wow, I can't imagine you doing that.
That's still you being fundamentally nice. Like you were just surviving.
I didn't want them to get in trouble. Yeah, but I was just like, I can't come here to your appointments again. They'll be like, you want to come up to, 4 o'clock on a Thursday to the Royal Children's and be in a study? No.
Yeah.
Can't even get them home from school. As if I'm going to drive in there. There was, anyway.
It's too much. No, this is the place to rant. Oh my God.
Did you said something about the Olympics and the athletes in them? What's your connection with that?
Special Olympics.
Special
So
Olympics.
my daughter's a Special Olympics athlete. So all athletes have an intellectual disability.
Yep.
So they have their World Games this year in Berlin, but in last year we went to Tasmania for the National Games. So there was 700 athletes and 600 volunteers.
Jesus.
And it was the most amazing week. Where Bill Shorten opened it, the Governor General closed it. Like Bill Shorten said, there's no place I'd rather be today. And the whole crowd just was like, whoa, you're right. It's like, come in Queensland, come in, Western Australia, come in Victoria. Just people so happy to be there. And just, magic. If I could have bottled that week, we all belonged. I've never felt like that before, where she belonged, I belonged. It was so beautiful.
That's just amazing.
Wow. How do we capture a little bit that outside of the Olympics? How do we make normal life like that?
People can volunteer with the Special Olympics. So you can go to your local club and you can volunteer if you've got time. So, but otherwise I don't know how, because...
Well, I think by what we were talking about before and not being a dick. Like Mandy and I talk about calling in and asking to help people. They're really hard things to do. Like instead of calling out, instead of going on a rant about how much you don't like Stan Grant or you don't like, the LGBTQIA+, instead of going on a rant about that, how about you call people into what you feel and what you believe and see if you might get somewhere a little bit better? And so Mandy and I don't call out people that have trolled us or have organisations that have been like mean to our children. We don't call them out, but we will just call in and say, maybe we could do this better. And the other thing that I think changes the world, and it is hard, is like if you're at the supermarket and you see someone really struggling, like I give the example of I was at Coles once and I had the boys, and for some insane reason, I didn't have them in the pram. They were about 4. One of them was having a sensory overload meltdown, just a response behavior to having too much noise and too much chocolate bars in front of him. And the other one just ran away, right? So I'm like, who do I save? And if someone had said to me, can I do something? I would have said, yeah, there's another one looks exactly like this somewhere in this shop. Can you just go and find him? But people step back. And sometimes we judge. We're like, oh, that child, just having a... Yeah. But they're not. They're just overwhelmed. Even typical kids, they're overwhelmed. Tantrum, it's just like, I can't deal with what you're telling me right now.
Yeah.
I have tantrums and I'm 50. So it's just a thing that we do, right? So, but we talked about that on the podcast, and we have had people like call into us and say, I was going into my school gate. I had my twin babies with me. One of them was on oxygen. I dropped something. I didn't know how I was going to handle it. A stranger came up to me and said, this is going to sound weird, but can I help you? I listened to this podcast and they just said, and she said, yes, you can. I need you to help me. And she said it changed her day. The person who asked, could they help, it changed their day. And I think then if we're all aware of what's going on around us and we're looking with a kind lens, and I'm not perfect, I am no guru, right? But I think actually it changes our lives and it changes the way we perceive the world, and it's so much nicer.
Yeah, I bet there is also, I'd like to think that if that had played out in front of me, that I would have reacted correctly. But I know, if I'm honest, I would have also gone, am I being offensive, assuming this person wants help? I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. You know what I mean? To be the devil's advocate. Now, I would always jump in and help because I'm that kind of person. But I would have that thought.
You have to be prepared for someone to tell you to F off.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, okay.
So as long as you offer, but be prepared that they'll say no and not take that personally and just get on with your day.
Yeah. Because we were watching videos with my daughters yesterday, and it's the new thing on YouTube. It's kind of like shorts. It's like TikTok, the YouTube version of TikTok.
Yep.
So we're just watching silly, funny videos come along, and then there's two parents came along, and they both had kids with CP, and they were in chairs, and just the caption said, if we had $1 for every time someone looked at us funny, out in public. And I was sitting on that for hours going, yeah, it must be a lot. And then I was like, I don't know if I even know what the proper interaction would be or should be. It's difficult territory if you're not familiar with it as well.
Did you encounter that with Sunday in a cast and out and about?
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like there were points where we let her just crawl along the floor at the supermarket in a body cast because
she wanted
that's
to.
what she needed to do, right? So you kind of going, oh Jesus Christ, what everyone thinks of us in our parenting style. We're letting this girl crawl along in her bare hands. She
Videoing.
Doesn't even have a T-shirt on. She's got bare upper body with half a body cast on, just crawling along the floor in a public space.
And little kids coming up and they don't mean to be, rude, and they go, why does this little boy have no legs? And you're like, it's a girl and she does have legs. And the parents are like, don't talk to that baby. Come away. Yeah. And I did. But I also found a really beautiful hip dysplasia community that I never knew existed.
Yes,
and they were so grateful when I started telling our story. It really helped so many people.
Yes.
And I felt like I just had to pay it forward because
other people's stories helped us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like all the tips and the tricks and, do this. And I even had a lady who lives, close by come and drop off bits and pieces. And I'd never experienced anything like that. And I think that's also a big reason why so many people listen to your podcast because that's what you share on a very big scale. And there's people who listen who don't have children with disabilities. There's lots.
And I think people who listen, I'm generalizing, but often people who have at some point in their life been othered, which is probably all of us, right? And all of a sudden there's this community of people who didn't quite fit in at school or, were bullied at work or, we have a big queer community that listens, and there's something uniting about not quite fitting in, right? And we love it. I don't want to go back to that other life. I don't want to go back to before Kate. I much prefer this Kate. And so our community is so unique. Like we have a hangout on Facebook and we have
we're there.
We have never had any bullying or trolling or it is kind all the time. Like, where do you see that?
Yeah.
But that's right.
In the online world, you are a rare unicorn.
Yeah. Well, it's because people trust us and also I said in the beginning, we're going to start this and if anyone causes any trouble, I'm going to close it because we do not have time and energy to deal with that. We do not.
That's
so
true.
they listened. I think they're like, we're not going to upset Mandy. She's got too much going on.
She can be really crazy when she gets angry.
She really can. She'll just delete that page because she's impulsive.
Oh my God! I've just looked at the time, and I know that you have to go and pick up your daughters, so we'll have to let you
We've
go.
held you long because your poor thing's waiting for you at the school gate.
This is what happened last time when we spoke to you. I feel like we could sit here and talk with you all day. Where can people find you? Where can our listeners find you? Give yourselves a big plug.
Just wherever they find every other podcast. It's TOO. People get confused. They think it's TWO, which it should be, but we're bogans, so it's TOO.
Us two, you two.
Yeah.
Podcast.
Yep.
And a website, toopeaspod. Oh, what's it called?
We don't even know what it is. There's a website. Just Google 2Piece.
It'll find it.
And you're on social media.
Yeah, we've got the Insta and the Facebook. Grant loves it. He's often commenting on all of our Facebook.
I'm always there. Yeah, exactly. I love Facebook. Are you guys on MySpace as well? Because I'm going to get on there.
Yeah. We've got our MySpace.
And where can I write a letter to? Do you guys have a postal address?
I've got a PO box.
PO Box 30, Ringwood East, 3135.
And a fax?
I just got in there today. No fax.
If I strap a note to a pigeon's leg, where can that pigeon turn up?
Yep. Just the Dandenong foothills out of East Melbourne. Everyone knows us.
Thank you.
Lovely chatting with
love
you.
chatting with you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you too, because I've been doing this podcast for 4 years. My kids have never given one shit who I've talked about, but Grant Denya.
Oh my gosh. We played Family Feud again.
Yeah, we got the game out. Yep. And look, Shezzy, they just don't know you. Obviously, you're cooler, but they don't know you.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll wear
Not
that.
yet, they don't, but watch this space. Wink, wink.
You need to redo the game, whoever, because one of the questions was, name 5 things that parents nag their kids about. And my girls were like, get off your iPad, get off your phone. And none of them were on there. It was like, clean up your room.
Yeah, it needs to be modernised for sure. It's all iPads and phones. Well, next time you're playing, give me a ring. I'll come around because I know a guy who can host some things, and we'll come around and we'll play.
We'll have a 2Ps a live show where we just play.
Oh my God! Now you're talking.
Oh, that would be funny.
People would lose their minds.
That would be hilarious.
Name 5 things doctors said inappropriately.
Name something you should be prepared for when you go up to help someone who has a child with a disability.
Yes.
Just be prepared for a fuck off, is what you said.
The match made in heaven.
That is the top answer. Just fuck off.
Thank you for having us on your podcast. What a thrill, and we're really
we love you guys.
to be invited. So thank you.
Thanks for making us cry so much, because you're just such beautiful people.
Cry and also snot excessively out our nose, as this one next to me has done.
All the feels. Oh, love you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Keep up the good work.
Bye.
Bye.
Whoa. Did they hang up at the same time? Wow. Look at that.
Oh.
No, that was so nice. I'm so sorry that I snotted.
That's all right. I got you. I saw you. I tried to tell you subtly. I whacked you, and then I realised we were on camera as I elbowed you.
Thank you for
if
that.
If you're watching on YouTube, it wasn't as subtle as I was planning on.
You know what? I can't take that back and I'm not going to, because that was all the feels. You know what? Those women have been through an extraordinary tough time, and they have turned it around and used their own stories to help others. And they have a huge community, and I have full respect to them both. So
makes our podcast feel silly and purposeless.
No, we just, we're telling their story, and we're spreading their story, to people who, they might never have heard of them before. So,
what beautiful rays of sunshine they are.
Yeah, they are.
God, they've gone through the ringer.
Haven't they what? Do you know what? Challenge brings change. Isn't that the saying? Mm-hmm. That's my saying for this week.
Pressure makes diamonds.
But
I don't know if that applies in this one.
I feel like that's a bit...
bit sporty.
I don't know. When people say pressure makes diamonds, it's like...
It's sort of discounting the struggle.
But challenge, when you're really challenged, is when you really change. And they are living proof of that. So... well done. Okay, well, that's it for us.
I've got to go on just to wipe up Shezzy's boogers off the floor. And,
off my pants? Yeah. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you again next episode.
See ya. Thanks for listening to It's All True.
Bye.
It's All True, the podcast with Grant and Shezzy Denya.
Bye bye.